Hello, welcome to Lil's Vintage World. This video is going to be a tag video and it is going to be the how do you read a book tag. I was tagged by Julie from the channel The Hungry Bookworm, who I'll leave links for down below, and Julie was actually the original creator of this tag. So let's get straight into it. So question one, how do you go into reading a book? So for example, do I research the book or just kind of go in blind? And for me, I used to just pretty much go in blind. I used to be very happy going to like a charity shop or a bookshop and seeing a nice cover or a nice quote or something. Be on like a table of some sort of theme and be like, yeah, that sounds, really good, and would just kind of go off that and read the blurb, and that would be enough for me. But what I was noticing when I was doing that was that unless I picked up those books literally as soon as I bought them, they would then sit on my shelf for years and years and I'd never get to them, and then my desire to then read them would just deplete. So I stopped doing that a couple of years ago. I did a book video on it actually, and it was one of my resolutions one of the years. I can't remember which year, but it was a couple of years ago that I decided to do it. So yeah, nowadays it's very different, and I'm actually really glad that I've managed to stick to it. So nowadays I do a lot more research. I not only kind of look at the blurbs and stuff, but I would never just go into a shop and go, oh, that looks nice, and pick up and buy it. I never do that anymore. I look at on Goodreads, etc., or Amazon, I look at the positive reviews and the negative, because I often find sometimes the negative reviews is actually what draws me to the book. I mean, I read a book recently which was a comic book, and it was Arch Comics meets DC, and it was Betty and Veronica meet Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. And the negative reviews for that were it's slower pace, there was lots of action-packed stuff going on, it wasn't like out of this world type of thing, it was quite more reality-based, and that was a lot of people's negatives, but actually that was my positives. So yeah, I also have a look on YouTube as well, and if there's YouTube videos on said book, then I will look into them and watch them as well. But yeah, I do spend a lot more time looking into a book before purchasing it now, because otherwise it just becomes a waste of money and a waste of my time. So that's the first question. Okay, question two, do you take a book at its face value? So do I look at the cover, like what do I expect from it, sort of thing? You see, for me, you can probably tell, I read a lot of classics, and I'm quite lucky in the sense that classic books generally have really nice covers. I mean, look at these Elizabeth Taylor ones. Like, classic book publishers are really stepping up their game. They're flipping beautiful. I mean, that's Virago. These ones are Virago as well, and they're all just stunning, but they're all fairly recent. I mean, if I stretch, the penguin cloth bound are also ridiculously beautiful. So I don't really need to think face value, because I've already researched into it, and then once I've researched into it, if I want to get it, I mean, chances are it's in a beautiful cover anyway, so I'm not really taking it at face value because I've done the research into it. But it just so happens that most of the books that I read do have flopping beautiful covers anyway. I mean, look at them. I mean, look at the Persephone. Look how pretty they are, because they match. So I suppose I do take things at face value, but that's not my fault. They just happen to come in those beautiful editions. I mean, if there's an edition of that book and it's like a bit manky, like a bit more ugly, like an ugly cover sort of thing, and I'm like, ugly cover or pretty cover, I will pick the pretty cover. I am vain when it comes to my books. 3, do you read a book as the author intended? So do I like analyse the book and look for symbolism and all those types of things? And the truth is, not really. Well, first of all, I don't really think I'm clever enough to do that, but also I think what you can get from a book as one person is different from what someone else can get from a book, and I don't think that's a negative thing at all. I think that's a really positive thing. I mean, I really like when you read a book and you discuss it with other people, and what comes to the forefront of other people's mind is different to what comes to the forefront of your mind. I mean, you might both agree on what it is that you're discussing, but what someone's priority of that book is and they've taken away from it is different to someone else's, and I really like that. As I said, I read a lot of negative reviews, and I like the fact that, you know, what one man's rubbish is another man's treasure, or woman in my case. I like that, and I don't think that necessarily everyone's going to get out the same thing from the same book, because I mean, if we were, then we'd all like the same books at the end of the day, and we don't. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Jane Eyre, but I know a lot of people love Jane Eyre. I adore Wuthering Heights. A lot of people don't like Wuthering Heights. So it's balance, isn't it? And it's fine to not overanalyze it, and it's fine to just take it at face value, or your face value, or take away from the book what you want to take away from it. That's fine. And what you interpret from the text is different. And actually, if the author was in front of you and you were talking about it and what you took away from it, they might be like, oh, I didn't intend that to happen, but that's really interesting. I don't, you know, they probably wouldn't be offended. They probably find it an interesting insight. So no, is the answer to that. And finally, there's only 4 questions, but it's one way you can waffle on, and I do enjoy a waffle. Question 4, as a book lover / reader / reviewer, do you read a book differently knowing you're going to review it? And also, do you venture into other genres for review? So let's take the first bit of that question. As a book lover / reader / reviewer, do you read a book differently knowing you're going to review it? No. Well, sort of. I read it exactly the same. I don't read it any differently. I don't know how to read it any differently. The only thing I do is once I've read it, I then write down, pen and pencil, just write down a blurb, and then things that I liked about it, things that I didn't like about it, or things that I just want to mention in my review. And I do that so that I don't forget the really nitty-gritty things, because when I do an individual wrap-up, that's fine, that's quite easy. But when I'm doing something like Persephone book reviews, for instance, it can be a little while from when I've read the first Persephone to when I've read the last Persephone that's going in that review. So by the time that I finished that last one, I might have forgotten the nitty-gritty bits of the first one that I wanted to mention. So I write bits down so I don't forget. That's the only thing that I do differently, and I think that's fine. And the other part of that question is, do you venture into other genres for review? No. I don't, because it would be dishonest with myself. I mean, I really enjoy the books that I read, and I'm very happy with what I read and how I read them, and I know that, for one thing, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much, but also I have to think of my audience, and I know I could, you know, say, for instance, if I went and picked up a YA book, first of all, would I enjoy it? Maybe, don't know. But secondly, my audience, you lovely viewers, would be like, what on earth is Lil Do reading a YA? When has she ever read YA? So yes, no, I won't do it. I enjoy what I read, and I read what I enjoy. So that's it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. As for tagging people, I'm going to tag one person. I'm going to tag Graham. Graham, you are now tagged, so hope you're watching this video, otherwise that would be a bit awkward. And I can't wait to see your answers to this, because I think yours are going to be quite interesting. Anyway, that is it for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Chat to me in the comments. You can drop me your answers as well. And I shall see you soon for the next video. Take care for now. Bye.